Hey guys, and welcome back to another lesson. So I get this question all the time in classes with students, so I figured making a video on it would be really helpful. A lot of people ask, what is the CAGED system? So I'm going to give you pretty much the quickest rundown of the CAGED system in its relationship to chords. So CAGED is a word. It spells C, A, G, E, and then D. Now all these chords are open chords. They include open strings when we play them. So what is CAGED? What does it do? It's telling us that these specific notes, the letters that spell out the word CAGED, are movable chords. So if you watch my video on the chromatic circle, you know how to walk up a string based on the chromatics, right? So we start, on the E string, for example, we have E, then we have F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then it starts over on 12 at E. Okay? Now, how does this help us? If I'm doing a E chord shape, for example, that includes the low E string. Well, if I play, a lot of people know a bar chord F, and you might notice that this is just an E chord shape. We shifted our fingers up one and barred the first fret. So it's still an E chord shape, but instead of there being an open bunch of strings, an open E, B, and high E, we actually don't have anything open. It's just the first fret of E, B, and high E. Everything added one to it. And chromatically, the first note we played, if we went from E, the next fret would be F. Now if I went, up 3 frets from the E, so 1, 2, 3, and bar that fret, I'm at the 3rd fret of low E. That's a G chord. Slightly different in organization than our normal open G chord, but still works the same. So no matter where I play on the low E string, right, as long as I'm barring and doing an E shape, whether it be E major or E minor, E7, or E minor 7, right? There are tons of variations on any of the open E chords that'll work barred and moved over. Okay, so that is how we would work with an E chord. And the same would apply to every other chord in the CAGED system, right? So an A chord is another great example. We have an A minor, A7, A minor 7, all open chords. If I want to take the A minor shape, for example, and I want to play a B minor, well, A sharp, B. That's 2 frets forward. 1, 2. And there's my B minor. The same could be said if I did the A shape. 1, 2, and barred. Now the difference here is in an A chord, I'm playing the A string first and skipping the low E string. So in order to play a B chord, I would have to play the 2nd fret, but only from the 5th string to the 1st string. Okay? And I could again move up, if I do the 3rd fret, that would be a C chord. Again, sounds very similar to our normal C chord, just a little bit different in the organization of the notes we're playing. Same 3 notes, C, E, and G though. So that would be for the A chord and the E chord. Those are the 2 easiest and most common chords we see when working through songs in the CAGED system. The other chords, right, so C also works off the A string. D would work off the D string. So D, if I wanted to play something, right? I have an open D string, I take the D shape. Let's say I want to make it E. So D, 1 step forward would be D sharp, 2 steps forward would be E. So 1, 2, and then I bar. This one's a little bit further back, so I'm barring the 2nd fret because we added 2 to 0 in order to get the open string changed. So this would be barring from the D string, and then the other fingers would play the G, B, and high E. And this would work pretty much the same for a D7. If you wanted to do a D minor, it would work the same too. Okay, that became an E7 and an E minor. The same way it became a E chord, right? By moving it up 2 frets. And again, I could keep moving the chord up and it would be pretty much the same thing. We're just adding however many frets to it. We find the note in the chromatic, whatever note we're starting on the D string, that becomes a note. So if I started on the 5th fret, for example, and did this shape, it's a G chord. Sounds very similar to my G chord over there, just again, slightly different organization of notes. In this case, fewer strings too. The C chord's a pretty hard one, not because it's difficult to understand, but because it's more difficult to move. So if we do a C chord, we do, our A is going to be the 3rd fret, our D is the 2nd, we have an open G, 1st fret B, and open high E, right? So if I need to play this, and let's say I want to make it a D chord, well, C, C sharp, D, that's 2 steps forward, 1, 2. Now I need to bar that 2nd fret. Now, it's not that this is overly difficult to understand, like I said, but this shape is a little bit more awkward for most people. So right there I have a D chord. Again, will sound very similar to my D chord here. It adds in 1 extra note because we're actually starting on the A string. Now, in this case, I'm not starting on the 2nd fret of the A string like I did in the other open chords, because A wasn't the root note. In this case, C was the root note, which was the 3rd fret. So by moving to the 5th fret with my pinky, the 4th fret with my ring finger, and then skipping with the G string is playing open, right? Technically in the regular position, so this would be a 2nd fret. Then we have the 3rd fret on B, and then again, an open would move 2 forward to be the 2nd fret on high E. That gives us that D chord. So the C is based on where your pinky would be placed in the C shape, not based on where the open string is changed to, because the open string wasn't a root in this case. So we've gone over C, we've gone over A, we've gone over D, we've gone over E. How about G? So G, again, is a little bit less common than maybe A, E, and D, and even C, but is still pretty useful. A lot of people learn G in a 1, 2, 3 finger position, just like we learned C in a 3, 2, 1. But if you notice, I was playing C in 4, 3, 2, meaning my finger numbers. Okay, so if you play G in a 2, 3, and 4 pattern, so 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of A, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of low E, and then your pinky on the 3rd fret of high E, you still have a really nice sounding G chord, right? Sounds the same as this. Okay, but this is a movable shape, because if we want to change it, we have to bar. So if I want to change G to an A note, now I don't have an open string as my root in this. It's the 3rd fret of low E that I'm playing as a root, which is a G note, right? But I need to take 2 steps forward to get to A, right? G sharp A, 1, 2. Okay, in this case, I'm going to bar the 2nd fret because I added 2. This is an even harder stretch than the C chord for most people, but it works out. This sounds like an A chord. And it creates a very different kind of feeling than the normal A chord, because we have an extra string. The organization of notes is slightly different, although again, still the same 3 notes, A, C sharp, and E. So this is a great way to give a little bit of variation to your music. And the reason for that is, if I want to play a C chord, and then I want to play a D chord, for example, that sounds perfectly fine, but what if I did it this way? Okay, all of a sudden I have a bar C in the A shape and a bar D in the A shape. And that sounds pretty good. It sounds a little different. It gives me chordal variation when I use the CAGED system. It allows me to change how I'm playing my chords to either make it easier to transition or give a slightly different sound. And that was just in the A shape, right? So if I wanted to play a C, but I wanted to play it in the E shape, that would be up here at the 8th fret with an E major shape. And then again, a D would slide up to. So, compared to, okay? So you can do that with any of those 5 letters, C, A, G, E, or D. Now, you might be asking, why not F and why not B? So for those of you who know, an F chord is typically played one of 2 ways. The bar version, most common, is going to be an E chord shape, E major shape, slid up 1 fret, and barred. So because it's already a bar chord, if we're moving that, it's already an E shape moved around. So CAGED system is already encompassing the F, just included with the E shape itself. And then if we wanted to play, for example, B is typically going to be barred on the 2nd fret, and then we have an A chord shape on the 4th fret. So that would be the D, G, and B string 4th fret. And again, CAGED system includes this because we have A as one of our letters. So the A shape slides up. So that's why we don't include those 2 chords in the actual CAGED system, for example. And it's just because they're already included as a shape for another chord that's written out in CAGED. So that's how you would incorporate CAGED system into your playing and also understand how it coordinates to chords themselves. I hope you found this video helpful. I know a lot of students asked for this topic, so I thought it'd be a great video to make, and I hope that you understand that I did mostly major chords to do examples for the video. But you don't have to stick with major chords. You can actually play around with minor, sevens, minor 7, major 7, anything that is an open chord shape will work fairly well with this, unless it utilizes all 4 fingers like a B7 chord, for example. Okay, so thank you for watching the video, guys, and I'll see you next time.